Hey guys, what's going on? Shine from Apple Pro Insider. So the M1 iPad Pro is out. So let's talk about what are the differences and should you buy it? Should you buy it now? And what are the features you should, which specs you should buy, which you should not? And if you have the previous one, should you upgrade or not? So I hope you like this video. It's very informative. Something I hope I've seen many people make the mistake. I hope this video corrects it, and let's begin with the video. So I'm just gonna get my to the 2019 MacBook Pro 16-inch. If you want a review on this MacBook Pro, because it's the first MacBook Pro 16-inch and the only one Apple sells. And if you wanted like a 2-year review and should you buy it or not, just comment down below yes, and I'll do it. So we're gonna be talking about let's first talk about the new features. So today we're just going to talk about the new iPad Pro's features. So if you want to know more of about the iPad Pro, you can. If you want a quick information of what the iPad Pro is, you can go to my first video, and if you want to know about other products, link in the description. If you want to read it, except for like knowing what the features are, you can go to my blog post, which has more than 700k page views. We're trying to hit 1 million page views before the end of the year, end of the year for the blog, because I started in September 23rd. We're gonna get 1 million before 23rd of September. So if you really want to read it, go and check it out. Very informative. I hope you like, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, and I don't know, check me out on Spotify, check out my other channel, One That Sounds. Most of my music which I use in my videos are over there. So let's start with the video, with the iPad. So now let's start with the iPads. So let's go to the Apple website, iPad Pro. So iPad Pro. So what is the main highlights of this iPad Pro is the M1 processor. So the iPad Pro has the M1 processor, which is in the MacBook Pro 13-inch and the MacBook Air M1. So a very powerful processor. Actually, it's very efficient. It's also in the new iMac. If you want some tips on which specification to buy, just comment down below. Gonna get it. So so the main highlight is the M1 processor. So usually what happens is, if they want to put the same processor in if we consider the Surface, if I would consider before, what people would do is what companies would actually do is they would put the same processor, but the performance would be different. It would be a lower end version of the processor inside a tablet pad, or in the tablet form factor. But according to Apple, what Apple is doing is actually putting the same exact M1 processor into it, which means you get the same performance, awesome performance, and you also have the option for having 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is great, and up to 2 terabytes of storage. So that's first thing. So first thing is that, and second thing is the then for the so what happens, so there are two variants. One is the 11-inch and the 12.9-inch. So the 12.9-inch got a new XDR Retina display, which is liquid Retina display. So it's the same one as the Pro display XDR. It has nano mini LEDs, mini LED technology, which does mean much better peak brightness, much clearer content, much better battery life, because when you're watching content, if there are any dark circles, it doesn't completely turn it off the screen, the particular area which is black, and it's just going to turn off the pixels, which is saving battery life. And the quality of the display is similar to the Pro display XDR. So both of them have 5G, which actually begs the question, which also I think many people ask, will Apple release an 5G capable Mac? I don't know, could be, but it could be very awesome. If they did it on an iPad with M1, why can't they do it with the Mac? That would be awesome, but till now it's only for the iPad. So this has the M1, as I said, the processor. They have a new Magic keyboard, but not the new, but it has a new color, which is white, which is awesome. You have 50% faster CPU performance and 40% graphics performance. Which you have Pro, and for the display you have Pro Motion, 1000 nits and 1600 nits of peak brightness, true tone, and P3 white color gamut, which is a very pro feature. Like, I would say it's for where you, like, if you don't know what is P3 white color gamut, it's like a color calibration for your display, which is mostly used for high level photo editing, video high level photo editing, mostly anything picture related. It's used because you can see colors which you won't be able to see in a regularly calibrated display. So that is why. So there are 10,000 mini LEDs with 2,500 local dimming zones, which is very good. And for the 11-inch, there's a liquid retina, which is pretty good. 600 nits of peak brightness and P3 Pro Motion, which is 120 Hz. They have 5G speeds, which is pretty good. Wi-Fi 6, very good upgrade actually. Cameras, you have a new ultra wide camera with the iPad Pro, which allows you to have a feature called center stage, which is going to, where if you are like recording a video or like in a conference, it's going to keep you in frame. So for example, you're in your kitchen and you're like recording something and you're like going out of frame a bit, the iPad is going to switch between the ultra wide and the wide camera to put you in frame, which is pretty cool. It has a 122-degree field of view, which makes FaceTime awesome. And also you have the Face ID, which is pretty good. And you have portrait mode. And you have Pro cameras, which is a 12 megapixel wide camera and a 10 megapixel ultra wide camera. And you have a LiDAR sensor, which we also had last year. If you don't know what LiDAR is, it actually it is a sensor which takes in light. It's like half a camera and maps the images, which makes the image look much more realistic. And for AR, it's a very good feat. It's very good as it knows where to place the objects, so that's pretty cool. If you don't know, the iPhone 12 Pro has a LiDAR sensor which allows it to shoot RAW, which is pretty cool. So the M1 chip also allows a new feature which is called Thunderbolt. No, I mean to say it's not a new feature, but it's not new. I mean, it's not new. It's not new technology. It was there, but it's new for the iPad. So it's new for the iPad. So before it was USB Type C, but due to the M1, they could include Thunderbolt. So it has 4 gigabits per second bandwidth with wide connections, which means you can use a Pro Display XDR. That is crazy. Awesome. So you have the Magic Keyboard and Apple Pencil, which are some for the iPad Pro. If you don't get these accessories, your iPad is just going to feel incomplete. The Apple Pencil and the Magic Keyboard just make the iPad just so much usable compared to just using the iPad itself. I've seen this. It happens. Once you get a hold of the Apple Pencil and keyboard, it just changes the way you use your iPad. So as I said, the new color, which is so much better, and obviously iPad OS, which is keeping everything running together. And you have some 5 studio quality microphones to record sound and music and much more. 4 speakers, which were there before, and a new 2 gigabit configuration, which I think is pretty good if you consider that many people have shifted to that approach. So let's talk about what are the differences between the new one and the old one. So 2020. What was actually new thing? There was hardly anything new. So for the iPad Pro last year, there was the new LiDAR sensor, dual cameras, you had the A12Z processor, which is technically the same but with an extra GPU core, and you also had the Apple Pencil support. You didn't have 5G last year, so that's a new thing. You had the same 4 speakers, and you had a Magic Keyboard. So those are the features which came last year, and many people. And the display was also the same. I think it was the same. Yeah, only the front cameras changed, and LiDAR sensor for the AR, and you could also use XR. Because of that A12Z, you could actually connect it to a display, which was also possible before, and it also had faster, bandwidth for wired connections, and it also had Wi-Fi 6. So there isn't much difference, but let's go to the order and talk about should you buy this iPad. So if you have last year's generation or 2018, this generation which has the Face ID, you should not upgrade for sure. If you're like using it for Netflix, browsing the web, just typing up little documents, you should not. But if you use LumaFusion, Photoshop, Illustrator, you should get the iPad Pro. But for the people who are gonna do Photoshop and all that, I will not recommend the 11-inch. I will straight go to the 12.9-inch, as the screen is bigger, so you can like draw on a bigger canvas, and you also have that XDR Liquid Retina, which is much more better. And if you have like older generations of the iPad Pro, you can really upgrade to this. This is the same price. And if you like doing light work, I would say go for the 11-inch because it's still pretty good. But for people who do pro work on the iPad, get the 12.9-inch display. The M1 processor is really gonna be good. All that. So finish is really up to your choice. So yeah. Storage. Now storage is a very big factor. As even if you can plug in external devices on the go, you really want to minimize the things you're going to carry, and this is technically for on the go, so you really want to minimize. For the iPad Pro, if you're doing pro work like Photoshop or using LumaFusion, editing raw footage, anything raw related or anything which has heavy chunks of files, I would really recommend going for 256, 512. Now I think that's a very good middle ground, but if you want to go extreme, and okay, for like how many years would you use it? I don't know. Would you use it like for 3-4 years? I would say you might use it if you're like a really pro user. And I think 256 and 512 is very good for on the go. And obviously you can use external SSDs, which are much more cheaper than getting this. But if you want to go a little extreme and you are like, I'm gonna fill up those 1TB, 2TB storages, you can very well go for this. And if you're really gonna use it for long term, get 1TB, 2TB, and so they're really gonna help. So I'm just gonna choose random one. So connectivity. So you have the Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi cellular. So it really depends on what you use it. So if you're like, so connectivity really depends on what you want to do. So if you're like at home and just sit with and you have a personal hotspot and you can like use the Wi-Fi, and you're always like connected to a personal hotspot, or like you have a small Wi-Fi adapter, then I say go for Wi-Fi. But if you really want those high performance speeds, 5G isn't everywhere. First of all, it's much more expensive than the regular 4G variant, which was last year, but this year they have increased the price for silver for the 5G. But if you really want to get those, if you want to reduce the things you carry, and you really go out of the bout and you know 5G is going to help you, go for the 5G. So, and after that, I would really recommend going to the accessories page, and if you need some accessories, I would really recommend you getting a Magic Keyboard if you're really into typing on the iPad, because it's going to increase your experience much more better. And if you're like a pro video editor, a person who does a lot of raw editing, go for an Apple Pencil 2nd generation. And obviously, if you want, I would really recommend also getting some adapters like a USB Type-C to USB, Really helpful because you can edit on the go from USB drive. Also, you have Thunderbolt drives, you can plug it and it might work, and that's it. So that's a comparison. I hope you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.